A busy week for the Hoosiers comes to a close with one of their top transfer targets scheduling an on-campus visit. Plus, the Hoosiers have a National Coach of the Year on campus.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Locked On Hoosiers, your one and only daily one-stop shop for everything IU athletics. I'm your host, as always, Jacob Rude. Want to thank you guys for making us your first listen throughout this hectic week. Want to thank FanDuel for being the sponsor of today's episode. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon today to get started. Everybody take a deep breath. It was a crazy week for transfer news for the Hoosiers. Seems like things slowed down on Thursday. As I'm recording this, hasn't been much news. Now, Friday could be a different story, but the biggest news to come out after we recorded our live episode on Wednesday evening was that Chris Ledlum has scheduled a visit on campus for IU. He is the transfer from Harvard, a forward coming, as we said, to campus for a visit. Is the only, as I'm recording this, the only on-campus visit he has scheduled. We'll see if he does eventually schedule more, but as things stand right now, it is the only one. It is not this weekend, but next weekend, because starting on Thursday, there's a dead period in which it allows basically coaches to go to the Final Four. There's a coaches convention over there. It's basically no on-campus visits. I'm not even sure how much contact the people can have, but it's from March 30th through April 6th at noon. Certainly no on-campus visits. Things I think will slow down a little bit for the next week or so. Let everybody catch their breath once again. But once that dead period ends, Chris Ledlum is going to be on campus. There will be another dead period from April 10th through the 13th. That's going to be the middle of the week, I believe. It'll be a Monday through a Thursday. I'm not certain why that one's there, but regardless, there are a couple dead periods here coming up, but it's a welcome reprieve because it got pretty hectic there on Wednesday, trying to keep up with everything. It'll give us a chance to play catch up and talk a little bit more about Peyton Sparks, maybe Geronimo and Bates leaving, some of the targets IU has. But let's get back on the topic of Ledlum. To me, we've talked about him a couple times. I think I tweeted this out when the news came out. I think he might be one of the most important transfers for IU this offseason, this spring, because he goes a long way in modernizing IU's offense if he does come to Bloomington. He is the stretch four that you need if you want to play a more spaced out offense, which I think it sounds like IU wants to play. We don't really know. We won't know until we see it, but based on who they're recruiting, it sounds like what IU wants to play. He's that type of guy. If you look at Evan Mia, the advanced stats website that we've referenced throughout the year, I think I've referenced it before, but they have a position figure, I guess, where if you're the point guard in the lineup, you're the one. If you're the center, you're the 5. And it calculates all the possessions, what position that person was, and spits out an average over the course of the year. So if you look at Ledlum, his average is a 4.2. So that means he was pretty exclusively a power forward, but also played a little bit of small ball center. I'd be interested to see how much of that might have been late in games when they needed a bucket and they went really small or things like that. He has kind of the frame and size that against certain teams you might be able to do it. But at the very least, that shows you he's more of that small ball 4. And he's not even necessarily small. That's just kind of the phrase we have. a more modern four, somebody that can play from the perimeter, knock down shots, drive past guys, things like that. So it is, I think that is a type of player that isn't really available a lot of times. You kind of have to mold those types of players. I think that's what they wanted Jordan Geronimo to become. I think that might be what they see Caleb Banks becoming. But Chris Ledlum is that. And he was the best player on Harvard last season by some margin. He was a strong defender. IU won't have any drop-off in that regard. And I just think in a number of ways. If IU gets him, I'd feel really good about what their offense is going to look like next season. It'll certainly look like, I think, what Mike Woodson ideally wants it to be. But there's competition for him. So I think it sounds like Ledlum is probably their top target right now. There's a lot of competition for Nick Timberlake as well, but IU might be playing a little bit behind the curve just because there's so many guys there. Everything's still pretty early, so we don't really know who the leaders in the clubhouse are. I would say with Ledlum, the fact that IU was the first place he scheduled an official visit probably means something. How much it means, we don't know, and he will probably take a number of visits to a number of places, but IU being the first feels noteworthy, significant maybe. That might be semantics, but it is something that caught my eye that IU was the first place that he scheduled a visit for. We'll see if that ends up factoring into it. With Peyton Sparks, he took the visit, and he sounded like he would have committed that day and took some time and eventually committed. You look at Malik Renew, he came to Bloomington, committed while on the visit. So when IU typically gets people on campus, whatever they do works. So I'm very interested to see what Ledlum does once he gets on campus next weekend. Could be a big weekend for the Hoosiers. He would be a very big get for Indiana. Let's switch to the other basketball team. Teri Moren is a National Coach of the Year. We'll look at what that means for the program. It was a cool little video that they had as well, and talk a little bit about the women's basketball team. We'll do all that here in one moment. Before we dive into that, let's talk about FanDuel, sponsor of today's episode, America's #1 sportsbook. The tournament wraps up this weekend. I would say if there's ever a time to bet on some underdogs, it would be this season, this tournament, this weekend. Throw some money down on the underdogs. And if you don't win, as long as you signed up with our FanDuel.com/locked-on URL, you're going to get some no sweat first bets. So for those that haven't heard, FanDuel is giving out these no sweat first bets for those that sign up at FanDuel.com/locked-on. That means if you bet on the underdogs and you miss, you're going to get bonus bets back up to $1,000 if that first bet does not win. So risk-free. Throw some money down on the underdogs. If it misses, try it again on Monday. It's all on an app that's safe, secure, super easy to use. So don't miss your shot, guys. It is a no sweat first bet. There's no catch. There's no asterisk. There's nothing. This is legitimate. Just sign up at FanDuel.com/locked-on today to get that no sweat first bet up to $1,000. Make every moment more with FanDuel. Big shout out to all of you guys. This was a record-breaking week, record-breaking couple of weeks for Locked On Hoosiers, and I can't thank you guys enough. So while you're here, leave a rating real quick, whether on Spotify, Apple. If you're on YouTube, subscribe. We're closing in quickly on 1,000 subscribers. I'd love to get that before we go fully into the summer. It's going to be a busy couple of weeks still. So if you guys have not already, subscribe would mean the world to me. Teri Moren on Thursday was named the Associated Press Coach of the Year. It is the first time in women's program history that they have had the National Coach of the Year, which so deserving of it. An incredible season to be a part of. The sting has started to wear off a little bit from that loss. You can kind of look back with some, I mean, you could always look back with some pride with how Indiana played. And Teri Moren turning this program around. She became the all-time winningest coach in the program's history this season. IU was dominant throughout the year. School record 28 wins, outright Big Ten title, all the awards, all the accomplishments, all the records broken. Absolutely deserving of this award. It was a really cool video. If you guys have not seen it, they surprised her with the award. It was taken during Selection Sunday. Kudos to everybody for keeping this under wraps. It had been a couple of weeks and nobody mentioned it, but the idea was that somebody was interviewing Coach Moren, and then the interviewer gave the floor to Grace and Mackenzie Holmes. Teri Moren's parents surprised her there, and then Mackenzie surprised her, told her she was National Coach of the Year, and they put it up on the big screen behind her. It was an awesome moment. Go find the video if you guys have not. It was super cool to see. This team was a super close team. You could see all of them celebrating Coach Moren getting that. She was thoroughly surprised, and just really one of the best videos you're going to see of the week is just seeing her presented with that award. Look, like I said, she absolutely deserved it. The Hoosiers were incredible this year. That means that they're going to have a National Coach of the Year and an All-American returning to Bloomington this year, because Mackenzie Holmes was named a Wooden Award finalist, which makes her an All-American. She was also a Coaches Association All-American. I haven't really listed all the All-American awards that her and Trace have gotten because I haven't had a lot of time to be honest. But Women's Basketball Coaches Association All-American, that was announced on Thursday evening. Mackenzie Holmes was first team. Grace Berger was an honorable mention. So IU has an All-American and a Coach of the Year, National Coach of the Year, coming back to the program. That's a hell of a recruiting pitch to transfers this spring. There's obviously next to no rumors about the women's team in the transfer portal. We've talked about it. They have a number of openings, scholarship openings. It's a team that still, I think, needs some depth. They have depth in a sense that they have 5 starters now, 6 this past season, that can all play at a very high level, but the bench wasn't all that deep. Lexi played probably the most of anyone. Lily Meister obviously played well in the tournament because of Mac's injury, but those were 2 freshmen. Maybe they'll see bigger roles this year, but IU just couldn't and didn't really go all that deep on the bench. So I'd be interested to see if they recruit players that can legitimately step in and provide minutes right away and maybe take some of the load off of Mac and the starters this season. Grace was playing 40 minutes a game at times. Chloe Moore McNeil as well. I don't know that them being worn down was the reason they lost against Miami. I wouldn't even say it was, but you can never be too fresh. I know there's a big gap between the end of the conference season and the start of the tournament, but keeping people fresh, keeping them injury free, you can always have a little bit more depth. So be interested to see if the Hoosiers add depth. Maybe they go for some more long-term projects. They have the ability to do a number of things. Maybe they try to grab someone in the recruiting trail as well, but they have the ability to stock up on the roster, and I would imagine that they're going to do it in the coming weeks. They've landed some international recruits as well, so maybe they go international and try to find someone over there too. It's exciting times on the women's side. I wish there was more rumors. I wish there were as many rumors as there were on the men's side, because I think IU could legitimately get any of the top names in the portal. They might not be able to promise the playing time, but this is IU's going to be a top 5, top 10 team again next season. It's a really good team that has 4 openings and minutes to be had. So we'll see who they are able to land in the portal. Again, next week's kind of a dead week, so maybe it'll be a little bit more time than that. But nonetheless, we'll see who they're able to land in the portal. There are 2 teams we have not talked about for this spring at all that absolutely deserve some mention. The softball and baseball teams are killing it at IU. Let's wrap up this episode this week by looking at 2 ridiculous winning streaks that they're on. Before we do that, let's talk about Built Bar. The Built March Madness bracket is here. Everybody has their favorite bar or puff. Now it's time to make your vote count because you can go to builtmarchmadness.com, vote for your favorites. Today, I believe, is the last day of voting, and you can roll your eyes a little bit, but look, head on over there, click a couple buttons, vote for your favorites, because 50 lucky Locked On listeners will get a free box of Built. Who doesn't love free? And 1 Locked On fan is going to get a 12-month subscription to Built. Legitimately, Built bars are very good. I know that you hear people say this all the time, like Scout's Honor. These are legitimately good. I call them candy bars by accident all the time. They're covered in 100% real chocolate. They have a ton of flavors to try. I enjoy them. It's shocking. Look at me. I enjoy lots of food, but I would recommend them to you guys, but even not, just head to builtmarchmadness.com, vote right now, win a chance or earn a chance to get some free stuff potentially. Make your vote count. You can vote every day in March. I guess this is the last day, so you can vote today. Hop in and support your pick. Let's talk about the softball team. Man, out of nowhere, the IU women's softball team is absolutely on an incredible run. I don't think I've ever talked about the softball team in Bloomington before. My freshman year, I lived in Foster, which was directly beside the softball field, and I never once went to a game. But IU softball is unbelievable this season. They are 25-9. Currently are on an 18-game winning streak. That is not a typo. They tied the program record with an 18-game winning streak. They did that by taking a pair of games against Purdue. I believe on Thursday. It was a doubleheader. Might have been on Wednesday. It was on Wednesday. It was among the many things that happened on Wednesday as the IU women's took a doubleheader from Purdue. That improves them to 25-9 on the season overall. They are ranked in the latest D1softball.com poll. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know which polls matter, but I know that this poll is one that IU acknowledges or recognizes. They have called themselves the number 24 team in the country, so it certainly matters in some regard. The Hoosiers got there. They're unbeaten in the conference. The only other team that is in the poll is number 18 Northwestern. Maryland was ranked, but they dropped out because the Hoosiers swept them. They swept a ranked Maryland team, 5-0 in the conference right now. They're the only team at 5-0. There's a couple teams that are unbeaten. Rutgers is and Northwestern is. No, it's really just the beginning of conference play. But those 3 teams are all unbeaten right now. Still a ton of time to go. But my, oh my, what a season already for the Hoosiers. They have a busy month ahead of them and a lot of things to be determined. They welcome in Ohio State this weekend. Ohio State is 21-8, 2-1 in the conference. So certainly another chance to prove themselves. Unfortunately, it looks like all the games are on BTN Plus, at least the ones that have been announced. That could change. There's a game on ESPNU against Michigan at the end of April. If IU is a ranked team and they're on this crazy winning streak, things could change and maybe they get TV time. There's a lot of games that don't even have any TV schedule right now. But as it stands right now, that is their only game that's on TV. A shout out to Teri Moren, who on top of being the best hitter on the team this year, hitting 446, an OPS of 1650. She has 14 home runs this year. She only has 37 hits. 21 of them are extra base hits and 14 of them are home runs. Also made an insane sliding catch that was on SportsCenter, sliding into the dugout head first in foul territory, obviously, to catch the ball. She has more walks than strikeouts. An unbelievable season from her. IU as a team is batting .333, and they've hit 44 home runs. It just seems like a really fun team to watch. Brianna Copeland has thrown 76 innings, has a 2.3 ERA, 79 strikeouts in 76 innings. So dominant from her. Incredible stuff. Like I said, this is not a it's not a program that historically has been anything, if I'm being quite frank. Shonda Stanton, shouts to her for turning this program around and making the Hoosiers something. On the other diamond, the baseball team is 18-7. They're 3-0 in the Big Ten right now. They themselves swept Ohio State this past weekend. For their own little winning streak here, it is not the gargantuan 18-game winning streak, but it is a 15 straight home wins to open the season. They have not lost a home game this year. So shouts to that. And I believe this is their 8th straight win overall. They are not ranked yet, but it is there's a possibility there. There's obviously been more history with the men's team, or the baseball team, being good, being ranked and whatnot. They welcome in Penn State this weekend. They go to Penn State. Penn State is 13-7 on the year. So a chance there. Also unbeaten IU is in the Big Ten. Them and Michigan are the only unbeaten teams at 3-0. Michigan State and Nebraska are each 2-1 in the conference. So this is the beginning of conference play, but both the baseball and softball teams are crushing it to start. And on the topic of crushing it, Philip Glasser, IU has 2 studs at the plate for men and women. Glasser is hitting .440 with a .650 slugging percentage. He only, quote unquote, only has 2 homers, but he has 13 doubles in 44 hits. 16 of his 44 hits are for extra bases. He's only struck out 13 times. He's walked 16 times. Incredible from him. As a team, IU is hitting .300, but they're slugging .463. They have 22 homers this year. Just mashing the cover off the ball. 57 doubles. 87 total extra base hits of their 256, So they are incredible stuff from them offensively. The pitching was what kind of let them down last year. It's a much better performance from the pitching staff so far. Luke Sennard is the top starter right now. He started 6 games, has a 3.82 ERA. A number of guys have started. Seti Manasseh, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. I apologize, but he has thrown 18 innings so far in 6 starts, has a .98 ERA. So the pitching staff has been improved this year. We'll see if it's good enough to get them through Big Ten play, but there is no better time to head down to Bloomington, watch some baseball or softball games think I'm going to try to do that this spring. I haven't been down there to to Bart Kaufman Field since it's been built. There's no better time to head down there than now. So, awesome time for baseball and softball. Bloomington in the spring is incredible. You don't need much of an excuse to head down there. So make a weekend of it. Head down there on a Saturday. Watch the game on April 8th. They play at 1 p.m. Watch the game. Go out to dinner afterwards. Drive around campus and just make a day of it. It's beautiful there during the spring. So I'm excited to go down there and check out two teams that are absolutely crushing it. Thanks again, guys, for making Locked On Hoosiers your first listen every day. We'll be back with you next week to get caught up on all this transfer madness. It might slow down in terms of news, but there's still a lot to cover next week to get caught up on stuff. For your second listen, check out Locked On College Basketball. Isaac and Andy have all the last-minute stuff ahead of the Final Four tomorrow. So be sure you're checking them out. They're on YouTube, wherever you guys get podcasts. Big thank you again for this awesome couple of weeks. Follow us on Twitter, if you haven't already, at @LO_Hoosiers. Subscribe to the podcast, especially on YouTube. Let's get to 1,000 subscribers. It's a big milestone. Let's get there before June, when we kind of downshift a little bit. Leave a quick rating and review if you guys have not already. Appreciate all the support. Hope everybody has a terrific weekend. Let's go Hoosiers, and as always, LEO.